You felt it, haven't you? That storm in her eyes you couldn't name? Sweetness that dulled your caution, drew you in like a flame hidden behind silk? A gaze so intoxicating it made you forget the very edge of your own sword. Brother, this isn't poetry, this is design. A precise, ancient pattern far older than any verse. There exists a realm of knowledge profound. It's unsettling that modern man has not so much disproven as discarded. Not for lack of truth, but because the price of knowing is too steep. Not ignorance, it's avoidance. Socrates didn't turn away from this. He didn't flinch. He walked into the fire with eyes wide open. And what he uncovered wasn't a contempt for women, as the shallow claim, but a relentless clarity about their nature, clarity that still echoes through the soul of man today. He warned not from scorn, but with fire-tempered reason that, while men are forged by clarity and exposed flame, women are formed in layers of smoke and shifting shadow. Socrates wasn't degrading the feminine. He was trying to awaken the masculine. After all, how can you trust what remains veiled without first lifting the veil? How can you surrender to what enchants without understanding what lies beneath thee? Enchantment. The men of Athens laughed. The jurors condemned. But Socrates smiled. He saw through their ignorance, their mockery, because he knew a man who understands a woman only as she appears, and not as she functions, is no different than a soldier seduced by the gleam of his enemy's blade. Beautiful, yes. And fatal Socrates didn't lecture. He taught in questions. So ask yourself, why does she seek influence in the shadows? Why is her affection so often braided with strategy? Why does her silence seem to say more than her words ever could? These aren't cynical questions. They are survival. If you don't ask, you won't see. And if you don't see, you won't kneel from Lavule. Kneel from delusion. In the Republic, Socrates described the just soul, disciplined, harmonized, ruled by reason rather than enslaved by hunger or impulse. But what of the man who constructs his life upon a woman whose nature he's never truly understood? That man isn't building a soul. He's building a shrine to confusion. Socrates also spoke of the tyrant soul spirit governed by longing. Ever thirsty, never grounded. And tell me, gentlemen, how many modern men walk in the suit of reason while dragging chains forged by the need for feminine approval? How many build empires, not for purpose or legacy, but to win the fleeting gaze of a woman who disappears the moment the walls are breached? Understand this. Socrates wasn't sounding an alarm about her. He was warning you about you. When you fail to know her true nature, she isn't your enemy. She isn't your salvation. She is the test, the trial that will determine if you are worthy or if your illusions will shatter under their own weight. You were taught to chase beauty. But Socrates knew beauty is the bait. What matters is the intention behind it. And this, he said, is where most men fall. You chase form and forget essence. You pursue her touch and forget her pattern. You don't study, you fall. And when you fall, she does not catch you. Not because she is cruel, but because nature hasn't shaped her to catch you. She selects, she examines, she evolves, but she does not build. That responsibility, that burden that is yours to carry, that is both your curse and your crown. A man, Socrates said, must live, examined. That includes your thoughts of her. That includes your needs, your weaknesses, your longings. Every fleeting feeling, every hidden vulnerability, every unspoken craving, if left unexamined, they become openings. And make no mistake, she will perceive what you refuse to see. She will sense what you bury. She will use it not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Just as the river doesn't despise the rock it wears away, it simply follows its course. The woman does not hate the man. She outmaneuvers. She isn't plotting. She's expressing her nature. She adapts. She responds. She survives. But what about you? Are you responding to your nature or denying it? Socrates lived among men who misread the essence of power. They believed it came from public applause, from coin and conquest, from influence measured in numbers. But Socrates understood a higher truth. Real power belongs to the man who cannot be deceived, especially not by what he loves. That clarity is not the end. It is the beginning of a disciplined life. You were not born to orbit her desires. You were not designed to move by her winds. You were born to govern yourself, to stand rooted and immovable in your own authority. Socrates taught us, the unexamined life is not worth living. But more dangerous still is the unexamined desire, for it lies beneath our choices, our worship, our downfall. In no realm disguises desire more cunningly than the realm of women. Desire wears devotion like a mask. It speaks in the tongue of love. It cloaks itself in fate and whispers of destiny. But underneath, it moves to the rhythm of something older, selection, instinct. You may call it love. She may call it timing. In Phaedrus, Socrates warns that love, untempered by reason, becomes madness. Not ordinary madness, but divine madness, seductive and dangerous. He wrote that the soul, when pulled by lust, becomes like a wingless creature, crawling in circles, obsessed with the source of its appetite. How many men live like that today? Trapped in that spiral. Many have surrendered their mission, discarded their values, compromised their sovereignty, all for what? A fleeting gaze? A chemical thrill? A soft voice in the dark? A moment of warmth mistaken for meaning. But you were not born to be devoured by the feminine. You were born to understand it, Socrates observed. While men are drawn to truth, women are often drawn to alignment with truth, but with security. This is not a flaw. It's not a critique. It's a biological brilliance, an evolved intelligence. But it is one you must learn to read. She is not searching for the righteous. She's scanning for the resilient one. The one whose presence signals protection. The one whose world is structured, firm, and steady. Your intellect alone will not seduce her. Your theories won't hold her interest. But your ambition, your certainty, your command of your own reality, these speak louder than words. Yet, if you place her on the throne before you earn your own crown, she will not kneel. If you raise her above your mission, she will test you again and again, till you collapse beneath the weight of your misplaced loyalty. Why? Because she's cruel? No, because she's responding to the message you've given her, that your soul is for sale. Socrates taught that the soul is composed of three parts: reason, spirit, and appetite. The highest man, the master of self, lives where reason governs, where discipline leads. But when appetite takes the reins, whether sexual, emotional, or social, the man begins to dissolve. He loses shape. He no longer leads. He no longer stands. He doesn't follow her. He follows his hunger for her. And you know these men. You've seen them. Men whose inner fire dies if she doesn't kindle it. Men who kneel without asking which altar they are kneeling before. Men who would burn their principles just to keep her warm. And you, yes, you do not wake up. If you do not examine, question, and rise, you may become one of them. Socrates was surrounded by those who confused noise for wisdom, beauty for virtue, charm for truth. He saw through it all. And when he challenged it, they killed him. But his voice, clear, cutting, eternal, still speaks. Not to the crowd, not to the applauding masses or the flattery of the weak, but directly to you. You, the man who dares to see the world not as it appears, but as it truly is. The man who refuses comfort in exchange for clarity. Socrates saw what others dismissed, that women, by their very nature, are deeply attuned to the present moment, to emotion, to safety, to the immediate reality. Their instincts sharpened not by abstraction, but by sensation, as they feel the now. They move through the current of the present with fluid precision. Meanwhile, men are both cursed and blessed with the burden of the future. Your mind, unlike hers, stretches forward. Your thoughts reach into tomorrow. Your soul aches for legacy. Your bones carry the weight of vision. But vision always demands a price. And when that burden grows heavy, the feminine offers you an enticing escape, beautiful distraction wrapped in warmth, softness, and the illusion of peace. But you must not take that path. Your peace must be rooted in clarity, not her compliance. She will test your frame, not once, not out of cruelty, but repeatedly, with the precision of instinct. She will push not to break you, but to measure you. She will reflect your own uncertainty back to you like a mirror sharpened by nature. And if you haven't mastered yourself, she will master you not by force, but by design. Socrates taught not to hate the world, but to interrogate it. Not to run from confusion, but to chase light into its shadowy corners. So chase that light. Into her, illuminate the feminine, not with suspicion, but with a deep, steady understanding. Because she is not your anchor. She is the tide. And do you understand what that means? An anchor stabilizes. A tide moves. You must not be a man who drifts with her rhythm, but one who knows where he stands, especially when she shifts. You must become a philosopher, not just of truth, but of your own instincts. Socrates warned in silence more than in speech that man's ruin doesn't come from the blade, the battlefield, or the throne. It comes from the unchecked desire inside him. And no desire haunts the modern man more than his yearning for a feminine mystery he refuses to understand. The true tragedy is not that you need her, it's that you don't know why. And in that blindness, you do what generations of lost men have done. You crown her a goddess and curse her when she does not perform your miracles. You long for completion, but forget she was never meant to complete you. She was meant to reveal what still lies incomplete in you. In Gorgias, Socrates dismantles the idea that pleasure equals good, that if something feels right, it must be right. He peels away the illusion that external validation, especially from others, especially from women's, a measure of virtue. What he exposes is unsettling, even chilling, to the modern man. Your pursuit of her approval is not noble. It is a symptom of your abandoned purpose. You don't need her gaze to feel seen. You need your own soul to stand upright in the dark. Men today are collapsing not because they lack ability, but because they suffer from a rot of internal disorientation. They know her moods better than they know their values. They quote her desires, but forget the promises they made to themselves. You think you're being romantic, she thinks you've lost your edge. And the painful truth, she's right. She cannot love what she does not respect. And she does not respect what she can control. Socrates didn't phrase it in modern terms, but the architecture of his thought leaves no doubt. He saw harmony not as sameness of nature, but as right order of souls. And a woman truly does not want to lead you. She wants to feel safe under your direction. But when you abandon that post, when you chase her moods as your compass, her approval as your mirror, her affection as your prize, something inside you crumbles. You cease being a man and become a satellite. She may keep you around, not because she wants to, but because it's convenient. A placeholder, a momentary solution in the grander equation of her instinct. And one day, inevitably, convenience expires. The same way seasons shift, emotions cool, and roles that once felt essential become redundant. You won't hear a warning. You'll just notice the distance growing, quiet. Final, the world is filled with men who thought they could win her love by worshiping her. Men who bowed instead of stood, who hoped that adoration would equal devotion. But love is not won through worship. It is earned through sovereignty, through the firm, quiet authority of a man who knows himself and governs himself. In Meno, Socrates asks, can virtue be taught? But beneath that question lies a deeper wound. Can men today even recognize virtue at all? Or has the modern world blurred the line so completely that masculine virtue has become a myth, a forgotten language? So the question returns to you. Do you know what masculine virtue is? Do you recognize its posture, its silence, its standards before offering a diluted version of it to her? Or have you confused devotion for discipline, lust for loyalty, and compliance for love? She doesn't want you broken. She doesn't crave your neediness, no matter what the culture shouts. She doesn't truly want you nice. She wants you real. She wants to feel the presence of something unmoved by her moods, something grounded. A man, and the real man does not orbit the feminine. He orbits the good, the true, the just. And from that center of gravity, he invites her, not pleads, not begs, but invites her to walk beside him. If and only if she can match the rhythm of that orbit. When she sees you live by principle, not persuasion, when your words are measured, your leadership is rooted in vision, and your love flows without losing yourself in it, she will follow. Not because you demanded it, but because you deserved it. That is the paradox Socrates understood so well. Power never comes to the man who seeks it. It comes to the man who doesn't need it, especially not from her. The moment you stop chasing her favor and begin seeking your form, not the form of your appearance, but the form of your essence, you become untouchable. Not because you've built walls, but because you've found your center. You become whole. Wholeness is the forgotten wealth of man. The ancient temples of Athens were not shrines to comfort or indulgence. They were tributes to virtue etched in marble, tested by fire, passed from mentor to student, whispered into the ears of men by thinkers like Socrates. Know thyself, not please her, not serve her, not become her fantasy, but know. For in that knowing, there is unshakable power. In that power, there is peace. But peace is rare today. Most men walk around with the look of calm, but the heart of chaos. They are not at peace, they are at war. It's not with women, but with the lie they keep repeating, that her love will save them, that her body will fill the void, that her warmth will cure their ache. This is not love. This is intoxication. And every true philosopher knows the drunk cannot see the truth. Socrates often spoke of forms, those perfect, unchanging ideals that stand behind the fleeting shadows of life. There is a form of womanhood, just as there is a form of manhood. But the modern man chases only the shadow, the curves, the eyes, the lips, the perfume, and pose. And he forgets to ask the most vital questions. What does this form serve? What does it protect? And what might it devour? She's not evil. She is efficient. She is not deceptive. She's adaptive. She's not broken. She's complex. She's calibrated for survival. Not yours, but hers. Her instincts are sharper than your fantasies. Her decisions are faster than your affections. And when your gaze is clouded by lust or longing, she sees what you do not. She senses what lies beneath your words, beneath your gestures. Your weakness, not with malice, but with instinct. She reads it in your posture, in the tremor behind your confidence, in the way you reach before you anchor. Socrates never said this in plain language, but it echoes in his dialogues, tucked into the spaces between questions. You are either governed by reason or governed by desire. There is no third kingdom. It's no middle path where indulgence leads to freedom. It's either you rule your appetite or it rules you. The man who falls into her without a map, without orientation, without having first confronted himself, he does not become free. He becomes lost, smiling, perhaps even laughing. But beneath the surface, he is drowning in a current he never trained to resist. And what becomes of him? He turns his confusion into blame. He points to her as the source of the undertow, forgetting he was the one who dove in blind. But there is another kind of man, a man trained in reason, a man who has interrogated his own instincts, who has stared directly into his thirst and seen it for what it is, not a signal to obey, but a question to investigate. He sees through the illusion before it seduces him, and that man he does not drown, he sails, with direction, with clarity. She respects him not because he is cold, not because he is detached, but because he is clear. In Symposium, Socrates tells of Diotima, a woman who teaches him about love not as mere pleasure, not as possession, but as a sacred ascent. Love, she says, begins with the attraction to a single body, but it is meant to rise from that one form to the appreciation of all beauty, to the love of wisdom, and finally, to the divine. But how many men climb? Most never take even a second step. They linger at the base, clutching the first rung of the ladder, mistaking infatuation for depth. They rot in the pit of pleasure, never asking what that pleasure was designed to point them toward. But your listener, you do not rot. You climb. You rise. Not because she compels you, but because your soul demands ascent. She is not the mountaintop. She is the beginning of a question, not the final chapter of your journey. She is not the kingdom, she is the gate. She is not the destination, she is the wind, but you must be the sail. You must know your course before you ever catch her breeze. Your strength is not in overpowering her. It is not in dominating her space. It is in outgrowing the need for her to define your worth. Let her remain a mystery. Let her remain a paradox. Let her be fully, vividly woman. But you be man, in the Socratic sense. Measured, examined, enduring, unshaken by flattery, unbroken by rejection, and distracted by the glitter of what fades. That is your path, that is your calling, that is your dignity. And dignity, true dignity, is not gifted. It is not handed down in praise or inherited in titles. It is forged in the heat of silence, in the bitter weight of rejection, in the cold clarity of lonely nights where no one watches and no one is coming to save you. That is where Socrates would have you build. Not in her arms, not in her validation, but in your own unshakable inner court. Because the man who depends on her warmth to feel whole has no fire of his own. The man who bends his will just to preserve her affection, he will bend until he breaks. And when he does, she will not pick up the pieces. Not out of cruelty, but out of nature. Because even she is searching not for a man who needs her, but for one who chooses her with eyes wide open, with a full understanding of what she is, what she is not. She is not your therapist. She is not your savior. She is not the mirror you use to determine if you matter. You want her to see you? Then stand where men rarely stand, in solitude, in discipline, in mastery without the craving to be seen at all. Socrates once said, "The shortest and surest way to live with honor in the world is to be in reality what we would appear to be." What is it that men long to appear as? Strong, wise, desired, respected? But the real question, how many are willing to walk the brutal, silent, patient road to actually become that? Do not chase her attention. Cultivate presence. Do not chase her body. Master your appetites. Do not chase her love. Offer her your truth, and let her respond as she will. This is what Socrates meant by the examined life, not merely the gathering of thoughts, but the dissection of motives. Not only philosophy spoken aloud, but posture carried in silence. Not just understanding what the soul is, but recognizing what your soul does when beauty confronts it. When temptation whispers, when rejection strikes unexpectedly and deeply. Because that moment when she tests you, when she withdraws, when she withholds what once felt certain, that is the sacred trial. That is the quiet arena where most men collapse, as the place where thrones are abandoned, not stolen. And it is in that very space, that split-second decision point, where men reveal whether they are sovereign or subject. But not you. You stand, you remain. You choose reason over reaction, composure over collapse. You understand something most men never learn? She is not the obstacle. She is the signal. She is the storm that shows you where your structure leaks. If her affection can break your concentration, the fracture was already there. If her silence topples your peace, then peace was never yours. It was borrowed. So do not resent her. Do not resent her for being what nature shaped her to be. Asterisk, asterisk, study her, learn her. Respect her design, asterisk. Asterisk, not in submission, but in wisdom. She is wind, remember. Uncatchable, untamed, ever-changing. But you are the mast. You do not curse the wind for shifting. You adjust your sail. That is manhood, not control, not conquest. But orientation so clear, so grounded, it cannot be broken. This is the secret the world refuses to teach you. This is the truth hidden under soft philosophies and scripted masculinity truth, buried beneath convenience and comfort. But Socrates never stopped whispering it. Through every question, every contradiction, even in the shadow of the poisoned cup, he left us a map. Be unshaken. And when you become unshaken, she will notice. Not with fear, but with awe, because she will know. This one cannot be moved. And once she knows you cannot be moved, she will respond, not out of obligation, not from fear. Not because you ask, but because her nature responds to gravity. She will orbit, not as submission, but as selection. It's not because you performed, but because you held form. Not as a prize to your posture, but as a reflection of your power. For women, in the deepest, most authentic sense, do not fall for men. They align with them. They mirror strength, not sympathy. They move to rhythm, not empty promises. Seek not the flicker of a flame that dances for attention, but the deep, unshakable heat that endures in silence. Socrates would not have begged for her loyalty. He would have become the man to whom loyalty is the only natural response, because he understood something modern men forget. There is a hierarchy of energies. What is grounded governs what is fluid, and you, Menu, are not meant to chase water. With empty hands, you are meant to build the channel, let it flow toward you, not because you grasped, but because you gave it direction. But the world today tells you something else. It tells you to submit to her emotions, to soften, to soothe, to please, to adapt until your edges are gone. And in doing so, it teaches you to betray the one law written in your bones. Do not bend unless bending is your will, because the moment you begin to fold to earn her favor, you begin the process of erasure. You will fold again and again and again, till you are no longer a man, but a memory of one. There is no balance in love where self-betrayal is the currency. There is no intimacy without integrity. Do you want to know the kind of man a woman cannot leave? It is not the richest, not the most handsome, not the most poetic. It is the man who could walk away and still be whole. Because the moment she senses you cannot walk, that your soul is chained to her presence, that your fire dims when her light is gone, she knows you are no longer fire at all. You are a candle flickering, fragile, and destined to fade. A momentary glow, forgettable in the wind. She doesn't need to blow it out. The breeze of her absence is enough. But the man who holds his line, who smiles through rejection, who walks forward even when she turns away, that man becomes something else. He becomes gravity, a presence felt even at a distance. It's a silent force she cannot help but sense even as she runs. Socrates knew this. He didn't merely speak of strength, he lived it. While others wasted breath on polished speeches and theatrical debates, he dismantled illusion, calmly and relentlessly. While others sought applause from the crowd, he sought alignment with what is true and flinching, unchanging. And nothing is more true than this. A man's essence must remain unmoved by the approval of others, especially by the woman he desires most, because she will test your core not to harm you, but to locate you. When she raises her voice, do you crumble? When she withholds affection, do you beg? When she threatens to leave, do you abandon your path? These moments are not fights. They are examinations. And each time you fail, she loses something not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. She loses faith. Not because you are unworthy, but because you have shown her your kingdom is built on sand. And a queen cannot trust a man who needs her more than he needs himself. You think the pain is punishment, but what if it's not? What if the pain is invitation to rise, to sharpen, to become the kind of man who can love without losing himself? Who can lead without crushing? Who can feel deeply and still stand tall? This is not cold detachment. This is not hollow stoicism. This is sovereignty. This is the masculine essence, stripped of addiction, free from need, steady as bedrock. It is the soul of Socrates, calm, grounded, and beyond manipulation. And that, brothers, is the root of love that does not enslave. You were not made to kneel at the altar of affection, desperately hoping she will crown you. You were made to stand at the gates of truth, to guard them with your words, your choices, your very life. This is what Socrates taught, not in slogans or doctrine, but through sacrifice. When the hour came, he chose death over dishonor, silence over compliance, and truth over comfort. And what, then, is that truth for you here, now? It is this: you must not fear her nature, nor seek to reshape it. You must master your own. She is not the battlefield. She is not the war. She is the mirror. She She's the test, the friction, the fire that reveals where you are weak, not to shame you, but to show you what still needs forging. Most men fail not because they are evil, but because no one told them the truth. The feminine is not here to complete your soul. She is here to challenge it. If you embrace that challenge, she becomes the forge. If you resist it, she becomes the flame that consumes. Do not ask her to be simpler. Become wiser. Do not ask her to stay. Become the man she doesn't want to leave. Do not ask her to heal your wounds. Heal yourself so deeply that your scars speak scripture. In the end, Socrates gave no commandments. He asked questions, not soft ones, but questions sharp enough to pierce illusion. Questions designed to wake the soul, to tear through the masks we wear, and to call forth the part of us that was made not to follow, not to kneel, but to stand. And if you dare to follow that path, if you truly commit to it, be warned, you will lose things. Will lose illusions that once comforted you. You will shed addictions that once defined you. You will abandon the false entitlements you clung to like armor, but what you gain, what rises from that sacrifice, is everything. You gain clarity, that rarest of virtues in a world drowning in noise and distraction. You gain calm, the fragile calm that vanishes under pressure, but a deep, steady stillness that no external chaos can shake. You gain power, not the kind that controls others, but the kind that governs yourself. And in mastering yourself, you will have already conquered the world. Let them call you cold. Let them say you are distant. Let them accuse you of being too detached, too logical, too firm. These are not judgments. They're confessions from a world terrified of men who cannot be bent. Because such men do not obey trends. They do not fall for flattery. They do not trade truth for approval. They do not sell their soul for a kiss, a smile, or a fleeting moment of affection. They stand not because standing is easy, but because falling is no longer an option. And in that stance, in that unwavering posture, you become a beacon. Other men will see you, not all of them, but enough to remember who they were meant to be. And that quiet ripple will travel farther than you will ever know. Like a silent flame in the dark, it will ignite others. So do you, the man listening in silence, reflecting in the stillness, feeling that ancient ache only the wise can name. I say this, rise. Rise without rage, rise without apology. Rise without fear, not against her, but for yourself. Do not run from her tests. They are not curses, they are callings. Do not resent her power. Meet it, not with control, not with dominance, but with something greater, your own unshakable being. And when you do this, when you become immovable, unshaken, unmoved by illusion, then the game ends, the masks fall. The false stories die, and the soul ascends. This message was never written for the crowd. It is not for the comfortable or the complacent. It is for the few, the seekers, the builders, the kings without crowns who still remember the fire. If you felt the weight of these words, share them, not for likes, not for clout, but for truth. Let them echo. Let them awaken. Let them reach the ones who've been waiting to hear what no one else dared say. Hit like, subscribe, comment. It's not to support me, but to support the message. Because men everywhere are starving, not for power, but for clarity. And if you've been fed, feed others. Let this be the beginning of your return, not to dominance, but to discernment. The world doesn't need louder men. It needs clearer ones. Be that man. Walk forward unshaken.